plagued by reboots, haunted by sequels, dominated by the same old shit. Get ready for an original podcast that will gouge out your eyeballs and skull fuck you. Starring Ginger Josh, Adam the Hare, and introducing the immortal Frank. Hold on to your butts. It's the Game Rage Movies TV Podcast.
That was quick. A quick turnaround to be back again for episodes 9 and 10 of the X-Men 97. My name's Josh. I'm here today with Adam again.
My God, I wrote so much. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
I wrote so many goddamn notes, dude.
All right, well, good. Then that gives us somewhere to go.
You got to let me.
Yeah, you handle this one. I'll just provide commentary.
I'm just gonna say, let me just preface this that we're gonna run through the events of the episodes themselves, and then anything that we find interesting within those events of the episode, we'll break down and say why we enjoyed so much, and pretty much how you've been enjoying these previous episodes, where we'll be running through all that shit. So I know it's going to become a little bit of a laundry list as we talk through it, but goddamn, there's just so much shit to talk about for every fucking episode that you really can't let anything fall to the wayside because it's all important.
Yeah, it is. It all has something to do with furthering the story, which is, again, it just tells you the level of storytelling that they have in this thing, the depths, the layers, if you will, that exist within this show.
And perhaps there might be an epilogue episode just to talk about the things that we enjoyed. I mean, we're already doing it, but just to kind of put everything to rest for the season, and if we didn't bring up points that we forgot about in previous episodes, we just get it all out in the epilogue episode.
Yeah, sounds about right.
So do we just get started and underway?
Let's dig right into it.
All right. So episode 9, Xavier's back at the Xavier School of the Gifted, and we see Magneto already returning to his, I don't want to say evil self, but he has his original attire, signifying that he's back to his old ways, that he's tired of fucking human shit and they keep proving why he's right. And then we get the event of Bastion's mother being dead after the X-Men fucking took care of the Prime Sentinels. Well, actually, that's not true. Magneto ended up wiping the planet of electricity altogether with his magnetism abilities.
Man, I just want to say the way that they did that was fucking cool as shit. It was like he puts this aura ring blast around the fucking globe, and it just wipes all fucking anything with electricity toast. And then the riots begin even further.
Yeah, and Magneto, as noted, is an Omega level mutant, and this is our first real demonstration of what Omega level means, that he wiped out power on a global scale, and that is just when he's agitated. Imagine when he's furious.
If he's really pissed off.
Yeah. So in the previous episode, you talked about how Jubilee and Roboito were on the run, and this is the instance in which it happens. Where,
okay, all right. I got a little ahead of myself.
Where they ended up getting saved by Forge and Storm.
Yeah.
Xavier has the wheelchair, that the one that is more advanced, that he can just float around.
Oh, yeah.
And it's destroyed. And he ends up resorting to his oldest fucking chair, or, old school chair where it's manual.
Yeah,
carting himself around.
Yeah, no power. It's all manual.
So that shit was kind of fucked up. But, getting back to basics, getting back to a degree of humility, that he is now human once more, no longer part of the Shi'ar Empire. And Bastion, as we get cut back to Bastion, and his mother's dead, and he's holding her. He says, "It's finally quiet, mother." It's the weirdest thing because we've been told that he's been hearing these voices in his head, the machines, the technopathy that he has, and now it's finally quiet, thus signifying or indicating that we are reaching the final stages, that his plan is going to be coming forth, the final dream, the
final solution, as we said,
the Silent Kids manifesto. The Quiet Kids manifesto.
Yeah, the Quiet Kids manifesto. Hey man, you might not want to show up to school next week.
Here's a candy bar. So the end of the mutants is near. Cyclops and Xavier hash it out. Cyclops is mad. Xavier let Magneto run the school, that he wrote this will. And he's like, why the fuck did you let this motherfucker end up taking over the school? And
he's like, yeah, good job, dummy. He's like, why the fuck would I? He's like, bitch, we got to hash this shit out. Like, why would you fucking do that, idiot? And he's like, but I was just, starting to think stuff. Come on, yeah. And then Cyclops just kind of like,
not having
literally just does a Batman tomb and just walks away.
Doesn't fucking have it. Xavier wanted Jean and Scott. His rationale was that by Magneto taking the reins, somebody like himself, it makes sense because this is somebody that is extremely powerful and can guide the mutants, that has just as much as experience as Xavier, maybe perhaps a little more on the extreme side, but he would honor Xavier's memory and he would also honor his will. Yeah. As much as they are opposed to one another, they would literally do anything for each other. And that's why he thought it was a good idea. And it would give a chance to Jean and Scott to live a normal life, whatever the fuck that means. Which means that Jean was right, that this is Xavier. This is what he wanted, and it's what we wanted, to go out and live their lives and not have a concern about what's going to happen with the future of mutants. Like they were inching closer to mutants and humans coexisting. And, but now we've gotten to the situation where now humans and mutants are at odds once more. And Cyclops is like, I'm not having this shit right now.
Indeed.
Xavier feared that Scott and Jean could never enjoy living a future in which they created it, talking about the coexistence of humans and mutants, that if Scott ended up becoming the leader, as Xavier stated, that he would be in a perpetual trap like Xavier was to the mutants or the X-Men and the Academy, is that this is something that he's always going to be in. He wanted freedom for these two fucking kids that he raised.
Yeah.
So that they can fucking have a chance of enjoying the future that they helped create.
Right. Yeah.
Rogue awakes. Nightcrawler catches her up on what's happening. This was I love this moment. Like, and it plays out even better once we get to episode 10. So Jean and Storm reunite after Storm finds out that the Genosha genocide happened. Forge and Beast greet each other. Magneto has turned off everything. There's no electricity whatsoever. And everybody in the world is dealing with that.
Yeah.
X-Men have to go after Magneto to reverse all the damage that has been done on his part. So they try to formulate a plan to take care of both ends. So they forge two teams. Blue team is Rogue and Cyclops are going to be going after Magneto. Gold team is going to be Jean and Storm, who are going after Bastion. Everybody has X costumes, which is fucking hilarious because some of them just pulled that shit out of nowhere. And Beast and Forge think of how they can restore humanity in Sentinels and how they can ultimately defeat Bastion, who is, well, I'll save the bits about Bastion afterwards, but they're trying to reason as opposed to creating more fucking violence. Trying to reason with Bastion and possibly the people that are Prime Sentinels. So Rob remarks that even if they unplug Sentinels from Bastions, humans still hate mutants anyway. So, like, you know, they're left in a precarious situation. And Xavier says Bastion that he is the command center. So in order to unplug people from his control, the Prime Sentinels, the civilians that have now been converted into these robotic figures, that they need to kill the command center or unplug the command center, and that is Bastion.
Bastion the Bastard.
He's a real son of a bitch, man.
He is a real son of a bitch, and he's a very arrogant and cocky fucking villain too.
But calculate, like,
yeah, it's like his arrogance is warranted. Like he is that good. He is the game, and he is that damn good. But man, yeah, he's a real piece of shit, that guy.
Xavier with Bastion thought he was a mutant that he could hear, or so it is revealed in exposition or lore that Xavier had recruited or was attempting to recruit Bastion in his youth, and his mother wasn't fucking having it. She didn't want her son to be seen as a mutant, and she didn't want him to be part of that world.
Yeah, right.
Xavier posits that if Bastion is taken down, Magneto will reverse the power being shut down. So that's kind of their plan that they're going with, and, you know, given a little bit of lore to tie Bastion to the X-Men and what could have been a what if scenario that this person escaped from. But it's like, dude, Xavier has created more problems than he has fucking
than he solved really at this point. Yeah.
So like maybe Bastion being on his own and being an asshole, I don't know, maybe it's for the better, because he probably would have came out worse if he was part of the original X-Men.
Yeah, he would have really turned into a real shitbag. Once he learned, because he would have learned under Xavier's tutelage, he would have learned how to enhance and control his powers and make them even more powerful than he already is with no guidance or whatever. So it's pretty funny. Did you mention that?
So Beast and Forge are cooking in his science lab, and they posit that the colors that have been created for the mutants to neutralize their powers, that perhaps they can reverse that and create their own color, or rather invert its function to neutralize Bastion's abilities.
Yeah.
So they bring up the neutralizer effect, which ended up neutralizing Storm's abilities altogether. And there's kind of like a thing where she shoots lightning at him, or she's a little pissed off because that's the thing that caused her to lose her ability. So now they're going to go inflict it on somebody else. He's like, well, then we're no worse than Bastion or like the humans or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So Rogue and Xavier eventually meet up, and they kind of also have their tiff about, well, Gambit's fucking dead, and you know what? You weren't fucking here, and part of the reason why he's fucking dead is because you started all this shit. And man, everybody's fucking ganging up on Xavier and just pouring on to the misery that he's created for everybody.
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
It really is.
And I mean, all you really wanted to do was create a better future for mutants, but these are the costs that end up happening when you dream that fucking big. Is that there is going to be casualties, there is going to be collateral damage, and yeah, now we have Gambit who's fucking dead, and many other mutants that have died in the genocide.
Yeah.
And Xavier and Magneto eventually do encounter one another. And one of the things that really got to me is that while Xavier has experienced some of the worst of humanity, Magneto has gotten it like so much worse, not only as a Jew, but somebody that experienced the Holocaust, somebody that experienced discrimination as a mutant. Like, he's really gotten the worst. And Xavier is telling him to be optimistic and to not lose hope, and that humans can change, and mutants can change as well, that they don't have to be enemies and stuff like that. And I kind of feel for Magneto on this one, because like, who is he to say you're better than this? Like, his experiences are completely fucking valid.
Yeah.
And as optimistic as Xavier is, man, Magneto is very much in the right of any way he feels about humanity. So that's why I'm kind of in his camp. But what do you got?
Yeah, I think that it's kind of those opposing viewpoints of, obviously Charles grew up in a very loving and nurturing environment, right? Whereas Magneto grew up literally during the Holocaust in a concentration camp and went through probably one of the most difficult things anyone could go through, and he did it essentially as a child. So it really speaks to Magneto and Charles, to me, are the literal prime examples of the product of nature versus nurture, I think. And their ideology really complements that, I guess, because Magneto was trying to do right because he's still his friend. He's still his buddy, right? Even though they have opposing viewpoints. And that's the one thing that I think people really need to understand about their relationship, even throughout the whole time of the original show. Yes, they may have been enemies, but they were never not friends. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were always friends. Like, he always knew that. I don't think they ever, sure, you go through ups and downs of whether you love or hate or whatever. The love and hate are two sides of the same coin. And those two are the prime example of that. And I think it just makes for great storytelling. So, yeah, I think that's a very interesting aspect of this. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
So I don't remember if he specifically mentions this or if I just wrote it down, but I wrote down that Leech died, one of the Morlocks.
Right.
And Magneto made a promise to him, and that shit eats at him, because for somebody that understands the significance of life and the tragedy of life being lost, to lose somebody like Leech, who was a devotional or was a devout follower of Magneto. He literally had faith in Magneto as his messiah figure.
Yeah.
And he fucking let him down. And that shit eats at him, because I'm sure he's getting flashbacks of him being in the Holocaust, not being able to save as many people as he would have liked, or anything like that. And then even in Genoshi's, like, he makes a comment as the deaths continuing to unfold. He's like, I don't want to ask myself how many people we could have saved. So let's do what we can do right fucking now.
Yeah.
And that's where he's heroic, man. That as much as people probably paint him to be a villain, he's probably more of an anti-hero than he is a villain.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I think, going back to that whole relationship between them is it's not really the Charles and Eric or Magneto relationship isn't one of hero versus villain. It's two friends that want to technically achieve the same goal, because they just want mutants to be able to exist, right? But the methods by which they're going to achieve that goal are polar opposites. And so it's like a weird dichotomy, but it's cool.
It is. And in criticizing Xavier, I think it's a lot to ask for people to abide by what he believes is the future of mutant kind. It's a lot to ask of people, because it's saying that even though he believes this is a shared dream by all, it's still his perspective.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe people don't want to assimilate. Maybe people just want to exist the way they want to exist. They don't care about any mutant cause. They just want to exist as, well, like, I don't know if you could call them human beings, but just as a Homo sapien in the midst of or in the mix of humanity or living, maybe they don't care about movements or all that shit. They just want to fucking live.
Yeah, and they just want to be left the fuck alone, I think. They just want everybody just wants to live and be left the hell alone, I think is what they're getting at.
So then we have Magneto offers the X-Men a new Genosha so he descends Asteroid M.
Yeah.
Which was fucking crazy because he's got something in him about all the shit that's just gone down. His powers are being exhibited to move an entire fucking asteroid, dude. That's how powerful he fucking is.
Yeah, and he obviously just has control over metal or metallic elements.
Actually, I mean,
but there's metal in the rocks and shit, right? Or is it?
Yes, but he's a master of magnetism. So
right?
Like his power level is that he just manipulates magnetism in general. Like, he's that powerful. But at the moment, it's just metal, or it's said that it's metal,
or whatever.
But in the comics, he's much more powerful than we are led to believe.
Damn.
So
that's crazy. He ascended Asteroid M.
Right. And Xavier Magneto offers to the X-Men, the ones that are around, that I lived Charles Xavier's dream. Now I show you mine. This is my world that I offer you. I offer you a new Genosha on Asteroid M, and if you want to come, then and leave humanity behind, these, I don't know what the fuck he called. I don't think he called them sapiens, but he made some remark about, it was a pigsty. He called the world a pigsty. And he's if you want to live with these fucking pigs, then go ahead. But I'm going on Asteroid M, and anybody that wants to come is cool with me, and we'll live in harmony the way we should have been.
Yeah.
And then Xavier says, "We are not gods, Magnus," referring to the comment, or making a reference to the comment about him saying that humanity is a fucking pigsty.
Yeah.
And then Magneto comes back and replies, Gods abandoned those who believe in them. Mutants do not.
Yeah, that was a cool line, man. Because it was like, and with that Powers of X and House of X thing, it was like, it's funny because he does say that, like, you've got new gods now.
Yeah.
And he's like, but we're mutants, so we're not going to fucking abandon, we're going to rule you or whatever, and you're just going to bow to us, but we're not going to abandon you like, you humans do to each other, because we're better than you.
And yeah, dude, it's like him, all of them are holding their tongues for humanity. Because they're trying to assimilate so that people feel comfortable and that they can coexist and shit.
Yeah.
But they're holding their fucking tongue because the reality is they are better. They have these abilities and they can do things that regular people can't.
Right.
And Magneto is giving them an offer, a potential for a society that only mutants can really enjoy, because obviously this world is not enough for them.
Right.
And it's not meant for them. So Rogue joins Magneto, and then surprisingly, Roboito fucking joins Magneto.
Yeah, that was a good shocker right there. I enjoyed that.
And then Cyclops and Cable reconcile, because now they will be parting ways and going to their assigned teams. And yeah, man, I think it's fucking hilarious that Cable already had his outfit from the future, or from his timeline, but Cyclops went out of his fucking way to make him a fucking uniform to be part of the X-Men.
Yeah.
I'm like, why would he want to wear that? Like,
that was pretty ridiculous, but it was funny nonetheless.
Yeah. So Xavier tries to stop the president from escalating the matters, because they have these Magneto protocols in place in order to neutralize the potential of Magneto going unhinged, which he's getting very close. And they also have to deal with Bastion, who is trying to get to the end game of his plan, which is wiping out fucking mutants.
Right. And killing everybody.
And this is the part where we get to the X-Men getting to put on some of their old gear. We have Wolverine with the brown and yellow costume, and we have Jean Grey with her Miss Marvel outfit, the green and the weird what is it, the masquerade mask that she's got on.
Yeah.
I mean, these are all things that we've seen in past X-Men comics and shit. So it was just cool to see that, because we've already seen them in their 90s outfits. Let's get back to some of the old school shit. So glad we got to see some of the old school costumes that we're all familiar with. And so then they're all parting ways, and Bastion has Sentinels ready for the X-Men, and he controls them through technopathy, because that was one thing that they were questioning, was how Bastion was able to control them without electricity. And it's through his technopathy that he's able to manipulate these Sentinels and such. And Storm and Jean have this really cool moment. Very sister-like. I don't know, man. It was just very cool. I thought it was one of the highlights of the episode is when Jean says, "Make them mind your weather." And then Storm says, "And them weather your mind." And they have like this girl power moment. And it was cool to see them invert each other's, or rather for Storm to invert Jean's phrase and still have it work and still make sense. So very, very clever.
Yeah.
Excellent writing from the team.
Indeed.
So Bastion is building his own future with this island in the Galapagos that he's been working on. Like, he has a city that he's been planning out. So even he has a vision for what the future should be on his own island and everything. And so then they start the invasion. The X-Men invade Bastion's island. Morph turns into the Hulk. And it makes me laugh a little bit, because for a majority of the season, Morph has been turning into a lot of X-Men characters. He's been Sabretooth, he's been Juggernaut, he's been Psylocke, he's been Spiral at one point. He's been all these X-Men, and now we're crossing over to some of the Marvel heroes. And in this case, it's the Hulk, which is...
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
Yeah, and I think he even says Morph Smash.
Yeah, he does.
Morph
Smash.
Which was fucking hilarious. And then we have the encounter between Jean and Sinister, which felt necessary, because even though Madeline Pryor is a clone, like, she's something of a sister to Jean. It's somewhat personal between Sinister and Jean Grey. Somebody that she just lost was herself.
Yeah.
And then we also have Cable, who Sinister fucked up and didn't complete the baking process, or the process of making him an Omega level mutant. There is a motivation for Jean to confront Sinister. So Jean starts whooping Sinister's ass with her telekinesis. She starts. They end up in a bowling alley, and she just starts whooping that ass. And then Magneto is approached by Wolverine, and I forgot who else. I think it was Magneto, Rogue, and some other people. And it's become evident to Magneto that he offered them a choice about joining Genosha, and they're obviously here to fucking fight with him. And so he says, "So you have chosen a side," and he starts hurling fucking rocks at them and laying the smacketh down
upon all their candy asses.
And Wolvie, one of my favorite lines in this episode 9, he says, "Oh, good. So we're skipping the blabber." And they get he's like, "Them's fighting words." And they immediately get down to business, and it turns into a skirmish between the X-Men team and Magneto. And Jubilee and Rob fight, which we thought would never happen because of how much of the romance has been developed throughout the course of the season. And Rob has now become a follower of Magneto, as we came to learn in this episode, because he just can't fathom the idea that Xavier's teachings or the way he has operated has brought the world to this problem. Yeah. And it's time for a new school, or a new school of thought, a new philosophy, and this is what works for him. And Xavier tries to reason with Magneto, because in order for them to subvert what could potentially happen with the Magneto protocols, the only way that he can bring down Magneto is if he tries to reason with him. And Xavier's like, come on, man, you need to just chill out, man. We'll figure it out. We'll
just relax, man.
We'll take care of Bastion and we'll talk this out, bro. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do this. And Magneto says, shut up.
Shut up, bitch. Like,
he's like, I heard enough talk, man. The time for talk is over. You need to shut your ass up and let's get it down to business. So then Morph tries to trick Bastion to thinking he's Sinister. So Bastion is in his quarters and he's controlling all these Sentinels and shit. And he walks in and he's walking in as Mr. Sinister and he's saying, hey, man, the X-Men are fucking here. We should probably get out of here. And Bastion's like, you think I'm fucking stupid? You think Mr. Sinister would be looking out for myself and him? You gotta be fucking kidding me. And then, yeah, it's I don't know. It's rather hilarious.
It is.
So then Bastion takes the collar from Beast, who is also in the battle. Forge is shot down in the Blackbird, or maybe it was another aircraft that they were in. And Storm is trying to subdue all these Sentinels that are attacking Forge's ship, and he crashes, or he's on his way down because they shot the plane down. Sinister manipulates Cable because he's got the what is it, the gem or whatever in his mind. Well, he created him, therefore he's
it's like his I don't know. Yeah, you said it's like his gem, or it's like his mind control fucking thing that he put inside of him, so that way he could. It's like the what is it? Not the backup plan, but the contingency plan.
Right. And so then he takes this opportunity, referring to Mr. Sinister, he takes this opportunity to pit Cable against his own mother. So then they have this psychic battle, and then Cable just unloads on his mom, who he has probably a lot of resentment towards.
Yeah.
And that probably amplifies his fucking power, because he just ends up blasting the fuck out of her. And Wolvie, we cut back to the team at Asteroid M, who's confronting Magneto, and Wolverine is able to pull off the helmet of Magneto, who needs it in order to protect himself from the telepathy of Xavier. And that's when we start getting to Xavier getting in the mind of Magneto, and he starts inflicting pain on him right away, because he says, if you don't fucking stop, I'm going to make you stop. I'm going to fucking handle this situation, whether you do it willingly or abiding by it. It's getting handled. So because they're in conflict, he's like, fuck it, I'm attacking you. And he starts doing his telepathy shit and starts inflicting pain on him. You got anything?
That was cool to see. It was just, I don't know, the whole sequence was just fucking cool, man. The way they did it was, it was like, again, it's like this multi-layered thing that, if you really think about it, this was a kids show basically 20 years ago. Or 30 years ago now, almost. Basically almost 30 years ago when this show was out, it was a fucking kids show. 25 years, whatever the fuck the number is. I don't know math. Clearly, as we've established today, I am terrible at math. But it's cool to see that, like I had said before, the show grew up with the audience. So there wasn't this multi-layered fucking storylines and all this crazy shit going on to this level in the original show.
There was.
Yeah, but like, I feel like, okay, I guess the adult part of it, I feel like it wasn't like this back then. I don't know. I watched the original show, yes, but again, that was also 30 years ago, but I feel like it wasn't to the level that they've done with this. I feel like they turned it up a notch to grow up with the audience. So we're getting more adult themes, obviously, but I feel like the layers, I kind of felt like, and obviously because we're kids, if I went back and watched it now, I feel like I could look at the old X-Men and go, oh yeah, like they kind of hand you the stories. Yeah, there's some hidden things or whatever, but it's kind of handed. This shit's like, oh man, the layers are like fucking deep, like they're layers, you know? I don't know. But anyway, sorry, go ahead. All right, Dan.
So then Magneto is able to fend off everybody. So they're back to square one. I mean, he's got his helmet pulled off and everything, but he's got everybody in their place. And right now they're at a standstill. And then Wolvie ends up coming behind him and fucking stabs him right in the rib cage. And then he says the line, "Been in a lot of wars, bub. The brave always die first." I don't know what that line actually means in context to the situation. I don't know who or what he's referring to. So what do you got for the breakdown for that?
I feel like what he was referring to is because Magneto was kind of basically talking about how everybody this is what we need to do. We need to, I will be the one who paves the way and has no fear or whatever. That's what I think he was alluding to. And so when he stabs him and kills him and he's like, yeah, buddy, I get it. You're being the brave one here, but sorry, it's in every war I've ever been in, always the brave ones die first because they're the ones running for the charge to pave this new path. And yeah, they're going to be the ones that get killed first. And that's what he's saying is like, yeah, man, you're going to die first then, bud. That's how I took it. How'd you take it?
I don't know. I think that's a pretty good explanation. I was trying to understand if it was from his perspective that he was going to die because he's fighting Magneto and he has adamantium and he's able to manipulate that. He's like, well, I'm going to take my stab at fucking killing Magneto and the good always die first. So, I don't know if I'm going to make this. That's how I understood it, but I don't know if that's what it was actually meant. But in any case, Magneto's fucking had it because up until this point, they've been, I guess you could call it sparring. Like, yes, they've been in conflict, but I don't think anybody had the intent to kill each other up until the point where Wolverine stabbed him because he's like, all right, this is getting out of hand. To which Magneto responds with ripping all the adamantium out of his body. And now we're back to Logan just being Bone Claw Wolverine. And that sight of Magneto ripping out the liquid metal, or I guess it's not technically liquid when it's in his body, but because he's able to manipulate it, the state in which it's pulled out, it becomes liquid. But man, that sight where he's just like, oh, motherfucker.
And then when it like explodes out of him, dude, I was like, fuck that.
Yeah. That is like some crazy body. If that was done in a real live action sequence, I think that would be extreme body horror because that shit, and that shit is like one of the monumental moments in comics, if I'm not mistaken, and it looks just as cool in the comics, but seeing it in motion was just as cool.
Yeah, it was pretty fucking sweet.
And that is how the episode ends. Magneto coming out on top. He subdued the X-Men and he has had enough of Wolverine shit that he just pulled all the adamantium out of his body. What a sight to see, man.
Yeah.
And so that takes us to episode 10. And do you have anything additional? So we kind of recapped episode 9, but what did you take away from the episode? What were the things that you enjoyed?
The things that I enjoyed were definitely there's two battles being fought right now. There's the battle of essentially obviously it's humans versus mutants, but it's also mutant versus mutant.
Plus the Sentinels.
Right. Well, I'm kind of just counting them on the human side at this point.
Okay.
It's them. They're basically the human side at this point. So it's them fighting down on Earth, and then it's the mutants fighting each other. And what's funny is the mutants are fighting each other so Magneto doesn't kill all the humans, basically. And really, I don't even know if he just wants to fuck off and leave on this asteroid. So honestly, at this point, it's almost like, fuck, just let him go. Yes, Charles knows he's going to come back and kill all these motherfuckers once he gets enough people, but fuck it, just let him go at this point. Let him go, let him do his thing, and we'll call it a fucking day. And then you can go back down and defeat the Sentinels, and then, try to make up with humanity after that, right? The fight sequences or the battle sequences on both ends were really fucking cool. This was an action-heavy episode, and I fucking enjoyed it.
Yeah, there's nothing cooler than seeing. Imagine being the writer for the comics.
Oh man, yeah.
Especially for this, the source material, to come up with creative ways to use everybody's abilities. I think that is an amazing feat to do that, to take fictional characters that you're trying to get inside the mind of and understand so that you can create the scenarios in which they would be best applied.
Yeah.
That is, and that's with the fact that you don't know them personally. You've never actually met them. You just understand them and where you try to get inside their head or their mindset. But they're not even fucking real, dude, which is just amazing. Like, for a writer to do that, a storyteller to do that, that is incredible.
Yeah, it is. It really is fucking incredible.
All right, so let's go ahead and get to episode 10, which is the final episode of the season, and we don't know how long this is going to go, but at the very least we have probably a second season in the works, right? Or did they announce that? Or
yeah, I'm sure that I don't know if they've announced it fully, but I'm sure it's real. Let me just Google it while you're explaining. Go ahead, or while you're starting.
So in episode 10, we have the intro with Magneto
Meeting Xavier, which was something that was referenced when they first went to Genosha, or one of the episodes that they had. Yeah, the first time they had gone to Genosha with Rambit. I said Rogue and Gambit. Rogue and Gambit are joined with Magneto, and this is the time where Emma Frost, Sebastian Shaw, Moira McTaggart are talking about having Magneto be the leader. And then Magneto reminisces about this time. So now we're actually getting to that experience that Magneto had with Xavier. And they're talking about, oh man, what a beautiful world it would be to have mutants and humans coexisting. And Magneto says, man, if mutants actually exist, they better fucking run, because humanity is not going to spare them. And he's talking about being a survivor of the Holocaust. It's not going to be much better for the mutants because he's fucking lived through that.
Yeah.
And then Magneto makes this comment about Charles' not suicidal, but crazy thoughts. And he says, I'm able to manipulate metal, but the harder thing to do is minds.
Or rather, he says specifically, minds are far harder to bend than metal. And
yeah,
I thought that was a fair argument to be made, because as we know, people in general are very difficult to change perspective or to be open to change in general. So he makes a fair point, and very aptly uses his power to talk about how much more difficult it is to manipulate metal than it is to change the mindset of somebody. That is almost an impossibility.
Yeah.
So what did you find it?
Yeah, so it's already been they already greenlit it prior to them finishing season 1.
Oh, geez, so they already knew.
Well, they already started on it when they were still finishing up season 1. So they said that they're doing they want it to be the best quality that they can have. So they want to fine tune it, I guess is what they said. And they said it could come out in 2024. It could come out. This season 2 could come out this year, because I'm sure that they already once now that season 1's good, I'm sure they got greenlit for season 3. So they're probably already working on that. So because they did say that they hate the fact that with animation, it obviously takes so long to make that once a show proves that it's good, there's such a lag between season 1 and season 2 because the studio's waiting to see if it's successful. And cool, it comes out, it's successful, but it takes 18 months to make one season. Well, now there's an 18 to 24 month gap between when it fucking comes out. Invincible is an example of that. Shit, I think Invincible, it was like almost fucking 4 years before the second season came out.
Invincible?
Yeah, because they had season 1 back, and I think, God, when was that pre-COVID? I don't fucking remember.
I don't remember.
It was like several years before season 2 came out. And they said like that's exactly the reason for it, is because like they just wait and it takes so long to make this shit. But if they already started on this 18 months ago, well, shit, this could come out by the end of the year. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Interesting indeed.
I say let them take as long as they need to.
Take their time.
Because this shit's too good, and
they did it right.
I don't need shit to be rushed.
Yeah, I agree. Let's not fucking prioritize speed or profit over quality, I guess.
Right. So Xavier's in Magneto's mind, and Magneto asks why Xavier defends mutants. Magneto believes that Xavier's way will lead to Sentinels killing mutants, talking about his route of assimilation with humans, that ultimately why is he trying to curry favor of humans if they don't fucking care about them at all? And Magneto is of the mindset that in order for people to understand, you gotta fucking let them know what's up.
Indeed.
And I'm very much in that fucking camp, man, because you can be a lapdog for humanity, and what do you get in return, man? Fucking nothing, man. This is how they ended up in the situation.
Yeah, exactly. Pandering fucking leads to nothing. Leads to bullshit.
So Xavier says, Xavier makes the comment about Magneto's way of moving is what led to a blacked out world that, much like the Sentinels that are incapable of differing between, or rather finding a difference between humanity and mutants, or rather the pursuit of mutants has collateral damage, and they will kill in order to kill one fucking mutant, that they don't care, that Magneto is capable of doing the exact same thing, a blacked out world, that he doesn't care what the fuck happens, that he doesn't fucking care about humanity, and maybe there might be some collateral damage to mutants, and that's what Xavier's trying to say, like, here's the flaw in your fucking thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Magneto comes out with a fucking banger of a man. Magneto has had a banger of a quote in every goddamn episode he's appeared. He drops this. He says, "Evolution thrives in darkness."
Oh man, that is so good.
I love that fucking line, because he's like, "Oh, look at all the damage you caused in a blacked out world." And then Magneto says, "Well, yeah, evolution thrives in darkness."
Hell yeah. God, that is such a great line.
Xavier gives ultimatum of whether to help by choice or help by force, and Magneto and Xavier square off, where he's using his magnetic abilities and Xavier is using his telepathy to have them square off. The power the power is restored against Magneto's will. And then this is where we get the cameo appearances of Iron Man, Captain America, Silver Samurai, Daredevil, Doctor Strange appear. And then Bastion is watching all this shit happen. And he makes the comment of, a dream as crippled as its dreamer, built to fucking die. And man, he's such a bastard, dude.
He really is, man. He just gives them the finger every fucking chance he gets.
Like, has to kick somebody while they're fucking down to point out the fact that Xavier is fucking paralyzed and just to be an asshole, man. Just to be an asshole.
Yeah. So hilarious.
Bastion brings up he could have been an X-Men, but fate had other plans. Storm lets Bastion know that if his mother had turned Xavier, or rather, Storm lets Bastion know that his mother turned Xavier away into possibly being a X-Men because she didn't want that. She didn't want her child to be viewed as a mutant or to have a troubled life.
Yeah.
And then Bastion says he didn't ask to be fucking born this way. And Bastion is upset. Storm tried to appeal to his humanity. So this encounter is rather interesting because I think it's trying to save that Xavier. I don't want to say he's trying to save him, but things could have been different if he ended up taking him in, and maybe they wouldn't be in the situation if Xavier had brought him into the fold and just really understand what it means to be part of a family. And that Storm also believes that the reason he's fucking lashing out is because he doesn't have his own kind. Like he's just
right.
He's alone as a sentinel, as just being the only version of himself. Like that must be very difficult to be a fucking a robot that is not even like a sentinel or not even like a mutant or anything. He's the only him that exists.
Yeah. There's nothing. He has no kin, essentially. It's just him alone. Yeah.
So then we have a Black Panther cameo. So we're just getting like the works as far as cameos go. And Bastion brings up the fact that the reason that he's escalating these things is because in order for humanity to survive, he has to evolve them. He had to give them the Prime Sentinel abilities. He has to manipulate them into being in the circumstance in order for humanity to survive what is the mutant threat. And this is Operation Zero fucking Tolerance, that this is what needs to be fucking done. And again, we get another fucking cameo, which was really cool. And honestly, this is probably one of the more obscure ones, was Cloak and Dagger appearing in when they start showing New York or wherever the fuck they're at, that we're getting all these glimpses of past animated Marvel Universe characters. Man, we're getting the fucking works as far as like all the characters that we've seen in the past cartoon series or animated series. It just gives me hope that potentially in the future we're going to get one, maybe 2 or 3 series about some of these, about this specific world, the 90s Marvel Universe, the one that we grew up with.
Yeah.
I think there is a scenario in which we potentially get more series out of this. Because now that they've seen the X-Men work, now that they've seen that this series works, why not try to double down and go with another series? I think Spider-Man is a go-to for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think Spider-Man, and I think they're gonna do like an Avengers type situation as well. And that's probably what's gonna happen.
And then we get the quote once again reiterated that tolerance is extinction. Some of the mutants that we get shown are Psylocke proper, not Morph churning into Psylocke. This is an actual appearance of Psylocke. Bastion mocks Cable for failing to save the world from Bastion.
pointing out the fact that for all the times that he's tried, and I think the count was at 200, that he
has come back in time. Yeah.
And then Cable comes fucking back with the sass, and he says, with the shade, "How's your mom?" Or he says, "How's your mommy?" Knowing that his mom's fucking dead, which was a nice little jab for all the shit that Bastion has been doling out. He finally got one back at him.
Yeah, he finally got hit with a little bit of that sass.
So then Sinister wanted Cable for his experiments, and Bastion wants him dead. So now that they got Cable, Sinister, who is extremely selfish, spells out exactly what he wants out of his deal. And he says, "I want fucking Cable alive because I need the son of a bitch to finish my experiments." And in the midst of the battle that Jean and Cable were having, the battle now escalates to Jean being knocked out, and now it activates the Phoenix Force. And then Jean puts the collar on Bastion, and now Bastion is, I guess, subdued.
Yeah.
Jean strips Sinister of all the... Oh, that was fucking crazy, is that Jean picks up Mr. Sinister, and she starts like wiping fucking DNA that he accumulated within his own body to allow him to have immortality and all the things that he's been able to do. She starts fucking ripping away the DNA that he so desperately needed to keep him alive. And then he becomes like this shell of a being. Like, he's ugly, he's fucking old, and he just like scurries away. And then Morph makes fun of Sinister. He's like, "Oh, how do I look?" And then he turns into him, and
that was funny.
What else we got? Let's shit, man. Well, we're getting towards the last third of the episode itself, but Cable is able to break free from Sinister's control, as he's no longer as powerful as he once was because of the Phoenix Force and how she was able to strip away all the DNA and shit. And then Jean and Cable reconcile, which was great because, you know, they've been at it for the last 4 or 5 episodes, that, you know, he's been resentful towards her because he's not technically her mother, but at this point they're cool enough to be familial and familiar with one another. And then Bastion says that he did mutants a service by using Master Mold to kill mutants instead of more painful and slower methods, that he could have been much more sinister about what he wants to fucking do to mutants. I thought that was like man, I know we keep talking about this guy being a real son of a bitch, but this was another degree of how much of an evil force Bastion is, that it's like when you murder a fish in order to eat it, there's ways to kill it ethically, right?
Yeah.
You could stick like a pole in their brain and just immediately kill them without them feeling a great deal of pain. And there's other methods in which you can do that. And Bastion chose to be the more ethical route, ethical being in question, when he could have done it so many more different ways and much more extreme. And that just fucking Bastion is a great fucking villain, dude.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What do you have to add?
I like how Bastion just, even when the chips are against him or it looks like he's gonna lose, he's just like, nah, I'm fucking off and I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna do this now. Fuck you guys. All right. Like he does that. I forget what it's called, but it's like, it's not the trump card, but it's like, he's just like, oh yeah, you thought I was gonna do this? Oh, now I'm gonna do this. Oh, fuck you guys. Like, it's fucking great.
So after this little monologue that he has, he ends up taking Cable's techno-organic virus, and that just allows him to evolve to a greater state of being to be much more of a lethal threat to the X-Men. And Bastion decides, all right, now let's escalate things. I'm going to use Asteroid M to kill all fucking mutants, and by proxy, all humans will potentially die, because he's like, this is what it's come to. So might as well follow through with my plan, because this
might as well just kill everybody. Fuck it. I don't care.
And so we cut back to Magneto and Xavier, who are squaring off in Magneto's mind, or the astral plane. And Magneto has at this point forgotten who he is, and Xavier is trying to help him piece his mind back together, because if they don't, then they're both going to be fucking lost. And then after Wolvie gets his shit kicked in after having the adamantium pulled out of his body, he tells it's funny the way he phrases it, because he couldn't admit it himself that he wants him alive. So he says, do it for Jean, or do it for her. And he's like, but secretly he wants his buddy to fuck. Well, I know they're not exactly friends, but he's like, well, fuck, even I want you alive. But he says Jean or her. So then Jean tells the X-Men on Asteroid M that Bastion is coming. Rogue says that the cards are always in the X-Men's favor, as a nod to Gambit, because now they know that the circumstances that they're in are probably... they don't know if they're going to fucking make this encounter. Yeah, right. And Bastion is working on destroying the gravity core of Asteroid M. Rogue goes ballistic on Bastion, because I think I don't know where they end up, but they start fighting, and she's just going ham because of, well, after having lost Gambit and potentially Magneto, or rather, assuming that Magneto was dead, she's just got a lot of pent up shit. So she ends up taking it out on Bastion. And then Bastion ends up getting Rogue in a chokehold, and good buddy fucking Roboito, or rather Sunspot, comes and makes the save, and they're able to get away from Bastion. And in the news, in the midst of all this happening, we have the mutants who are being painted in a negative light, which is something that Bastion had orchestrated to further sow dissent and divide amongst humans and mutants. Magneto is dealing with the pain of his life, of how much shit he's been dealing with being a Holocaust survivor, and just somebody that had just witnessed the genocide of the mutant race. And Magneto and Charles are drowning, because now all his life experiences are just becoming too much, and seemingly things are not going well, and potentially Charles and Magneto are going to end up in a scenario where they're both going to fucking die, because Magneto can't piece his fucking mind together.
Yeah.
Bastion, when he starts fighting or squaring off with the rest of the X-Men, he makes this funny comment and says, the funny thing about being an Xavier student, or rather Xavier students never fucking learn. And that was rather funny, because it is true, because I mean, they're getting their ass whooped, and Bastion's manhandling them, and Jubilee, Nightcrawler, and Cyclops are fighting Bastion. Cyclops unloads an optic blast, and they're starting to get to Bastion. Now his body parts are starting to come undone, and he's becoming a little bit Terminator-esque, where he's got like his eye coming out, and his skeletal figure is being exposed. Like his skin, his synthetic skin is falling apart, and it's just becoming what is it, T-800?
Yeah.
A fucking T-800. And Jubilee gets in the mix, and Bastion makes fun of her and calls her powers 4th of July powers. And then the party that was at the Galapagos Islands end up using a Sentinel to get back to Asteroid M, and it becomes something of a Trojan horse. And Bastion, who is still alive, after getting all this shit and rubble and debris thrown on top of him, is still alive. Magneto protocols are activated by the humans. Cyclops tries to save Bastion, because now that the Magneto protocol is activated, the asteroid is falling down, and also there was some portal was open, or what
Yeah, it was some kind of, I don't know what the fuck it was, like it's some kind of interdimensional thing or some shit, and that was when basically they all get fucked off into different different periods of history. I think it's Magneto, the Professor.
It's Magneto, the Professor, I think Nightcrawler, Rogue, maybe Storm? Because then
Rogue, Nightcrawler, Beast, Xavier, and Magneto get sent back in time to ancient Egypt.
Right.
And then fucking Cyclops and Jean go to the future, 3960.
Mm-hmm.
And so they encounter Mother Ascani and a young Nathan.
Unaffected by the techno-organic virus, or he's seemingly normal.
Which is weird because remember he did say that when him and Forge went back in time, or went through the time stream, that they got separated.
Bishop?
Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry, Bishop. Yeah, when Bishop took him, he said that they got separated. So interesting to see if this is the point where he got separated way into the or wherever, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then they go back into the ancient Egypt times, and they just start fucking everybody up, like all the guards and shit. It's pretty funny. Yeah, go ahead.
So when Asteroid M is falling and they have this portal open up, Storm and Cyclops show compassion to Bastion, and Bastion is still resentful towards them. And there is a part where Cyclops even ends up reaching out to Bastion. If one last hope, if this motherfucker is going to turn his perspective or change his perspective, it's going to be him, Cyclops, saving Bastion's life from this unknown force that's been allowing him to be sucked in to who the fuck knows.
Yeah.
And he ends up not being able to save him. So therefore, there's no fucking chance that this motherfucker is ever going to change his mind about anything he's done.
Absolutely not.
And then we get to the X-Men morph from this black hole force. He ends up turning to Mr. Fantastic to hold on for dear fucking life. Jubilee falls out of the asteroid as she but somehow she's not dying from space, because she actually falls from Asteroid M and descends into space.
Yeah.
On top of that being fucking cold as shit, I don't know what air she's breathing.
Yeah, she doesn't have any like fucking ability to do that, so
it was a little bit fast and loose of like even Rogue fighting Bastion in space. Like, how the fuck was she even breathing?
Yeah, that's a little sketchy.
So then the X-Men tried to come up with a solution to stop Asteroid M from crashing. Jean and Cyclops telepathically meet with Cable with fear that they may die. So Cable's at the diner, and Scott and Jean are just like, man, we might not make this, so we don't want to make the same mistake twice and not being able to meet with you one last time. So let's just have this moment. And they have their astral projections on themselves, and they're just letting Cable know that, you know, they love him, and, you know, they want the best for him and everything. And they just kind of have like a familial moment.
Yeah.
And the X-Men are putting their best efforts to stop Asteroid M. And then we spot Peter and Mary Jane.
Oh, yeah.
On the streets and shit, which was like really fucking cool, because if you remember in the Spider-Man series, Mary Jane ended up turning into like a liquid version of herself because of Hydro Man. And that's how the series ended. He went to go find Mary Jane. So if we are to assume that this series is taking place after that thing happening, then we are to assume that Mary Jane is fine and
dandy.
And fine and dandy, and that Peter Parker and Mary Jane are together, which it was nice to see. Wolverine is fucking dying because he just got fucking the adamantine ripped out of his ass. Nightcrawler saying, so I think Nightcrawler is like standing next to Magneto because he's still trying to like get out of the astral plane or piecing his mind together. And he's saying an Our Father, and I'm like, bro, he's a Jew. It's like,
yeah, idiot.
So that shit was really funny. And Charles and Magneto are united as so then they're having like this final conversation about, well, you and I are just not the same. We're not blood, and we're just friends and shit. But like, what is the thing that brings us together? Because we're not family or anything. And they both come to the conclusion that they're united by the way in which they're a family is that they have a shared dream. And that is what ultimately unlocks Magneto's mind and allows him to come to his senses. And then Magneto ultimately, even after all that shit, Magneto still saves the world and prevents Asteroid M from descending onto Earth and obliterating the entire planet, humans and mutants alike. So then we advance to 6 months later. Forge meets up with Bishop. The X-Men are missing. Bishop knows where the X-Men are because he's a time traveler and shit. And then I hate this fucking line because it's always when it comes to time travel that they this phrase is used. It's not a question of where they are, but when they are.
Yeah.
You always fucking hear that, dude. You always fucking hear that. It's such a cliche, stupid ass fucking joke. Rogue, Beast, Charles, Magneto, and Nightcrawler are trapped in 3000 BC. They meet Apocalypse. Jean and Scott stuck in the future. Jean and Scott meet young Nathan, and then Apocalypse at Genosha in the present timeline in 1997 picks up Gambit's card at Genosha. So I think we're to assume that he's going to resurrect his ass and have him be one of the Four Horsemen. And that's how the season ends. Man, that was a lot of shit to get through.
Oh, yeah.
But what a fucking finish for the series, man.
It was excellent.
It was, minus the 2 episodes, episodes 4 and 6. This hit all the right notes for me, man. This had the feel of the previous series. The stakes were high. The drama was through the roof. The tender moments, the shit that tugs at your heartstrings, they were plentiful and all over the episode list. And I still firmly believe that Magneto is probably my favorite character throughout the series, and maybe secondary, even though he wasn't that involved in the series from the get-go. I think we only got him for like 4 episodes. Nightcrawler is I'm a big fan of Nightcrawler.
Yeah, Nightcrawler's fucking cool, man. Even though he's a Catholic priest.
I just like that he's always trying to be helpful to others and like trying to help them cope or deal with things, and he so eloquently tells like a story or finds the right words to make it make sense for other people. And I don't know, man, he just centers people, and maybe that's not a fucking ability that he has through his mutant genes, but that is valuable nonetheless.
Yeah, it really is. And this show is going to be interesting to see how this fits into the broader Marvel universe and timeline and everything. So I can't wait for fucking season 2, man. This season was good, like you said, with the exceptions of 4 and 6. This season was fucking awesome. I mean, we got to dock it. You got to like. Do you have a score in mind of like?
I don't know if I want to do that.
All right, fuck
for
it.
this,
We
for
won't
this
do that.
shit.
That's
I don't want to give it a score because I want to
just too
see.
good.
I want to see when this thing actually ends, and then ultimately.
Oh, give an overall for the whole thing, basically.
But I will say, for the episodes that hit, man, they hit really well, and we're talking about characters that had to develop in 2 or 3 episodes. Madeline Pryor going from episode 2 to 5 to have so much shit happen to her, having her own child and being told that she's not the real version of herself.
Yeah, man, that's fucking crazy.
And then we have Bastion, who was built up in the span of 3 episodes to be the big baddie of the season, and with good reason, because he's probably the biggest son of a bitch so far when it comes to the villains of the X-Men universe. Like, so adapted so fucking well, such a condescending asshole, had one-liners, nothing but one-liner bangers, dude.
Yeah.
And I don't know what else I have to add about this season, but the character work, man, the relationships between the mutants, the conflict within both camps of Magneto and Xavier, the all the political and social themes that you can fucking think of. There's so many to pick apart that it's probably not even worth doing that in this episode. We might have to have an epilogue episode to even just like.
I think you're right. I think you might be right.
But overall, like I said, this was a home run for me, man. This is one of the best things I've seen within 2024. I don't know how many things have we watched as far as television. This is probably like not many, right? A handful.
In television, I mean, we really just did Shogun, and then this is like probably the second thing we've done in terms of television.
Oh shit! Then this is easily the best thing that we've seen in 2024. This is the best thing I've seen in 2024.
Yeah, definitely.
Fucking animated series that tackles so many goddamn themes with characters that have really cool abilities, man. The fight sequences, Nightcrawler teleporting, and just that, watching that visually, man, it's so fucking good, man. And then the team ups. I mean, do you remember when they, in the first episode, when Gambit charged up Wolverine's blades, like his claws?
Oh yeah.
And then he gets fucking hurled to the Sentinel. Just the creativity to use the abilities of different characters and how you can mash them up, man.
Yeah.
Man, it's fucking chef's kiss.
Fucking chef's kiss indeed. I completely agree. So hell yeah. All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps this episode up. So stay tuned. We'll probably do, like you said, an epilogue episode where we just kind of reiterate all the things that we didn't get to necessarily dive deeply into about the whole entire season. So that'll be fun. So we'll call that'll be the X-Men 97 epilogue episode, and then we'll get into that shit because we've already been going for an hour and 20 just to talk about the episode.
Oh god.
So anyways, all right, well, sounds good. Stay tuned for that. The next series that we are gonna do is gonna be what? Did we just make a decision about that?
I wanted to watch The Bear,
all right,
but I don't know how that's gonna work. Are we gonna try to do 2 episodes every
week?
Every week?
We can do that.
Because I could restart watching it because it's just to recap on everything. I mean, at this point, I've probably already forgotten all the shit that's happened.
Yeah,
so
basically.
might as well try to catch up again before
right.
season 3 comes out.
So yeah, we'll start The Bear, and that'll be the next thing you'll hear probably after the X-Men epilogue. And then it'll be great. So anyways, well, you'll hear all the shit at the end like you normally do. So, we thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Oh, hey there, buddy. It's me, 1930s announcer guy, here to congratulate you on making it through this episode. As our heroes are getting in their jalopies and riding off into the literal sunset, they wanted me to tell you thanks for listening to their radio broadcast, and should you be so kind as to follow them on some fancy schmancy radio station publication called Instagram and TikTok at Game Range Magazine. and on some other thing called Twitter/X at Game Rage Mag. Also, they wanted me to inform you and ask if you could be so kind again as to visit something called a website at www.GameRageMagazine.com. I don't know what that is, buddy, but you should probably go do those things. And, don't forget to tune in next time to the Game Rage Movies and TV radio broadcast.